the story, the animals take over the farm. They kick the human beings out, and they take over the farm. And they put a sign up over the gate of the farm that says all animals are equal. And then towards the end of the novel, the pigs take over. The pigs take over the running of the farm, and they modified the sign on the gate of the farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And first in the end, at my grammar school, we did the music teacher put on a little Russian opera, and there was a bit of it's all boys' schools, all men, sort of, Russian adults, sort of going on an expedition, and one of the members of the expedition went ill, broke a leg or something, and it was not wise to carry him home to get him fixed in the hospital. So we had to kill him. We had the wise thing to do was to chuck him off the cliff and end his life. So we chucked him off the cliff, and we sang this song. This will be seen by some as the dark side of communism. It is important to know when to be in agreement. The consensus is this man who can't be saved. If we try to send him home to the hospital, he'll jeopardise the mission. So we have to, sadly, we have to kill the fucker, chuck him off the cliff, and no dissenting voices are allowed. It is important to know when to be in agreement. Now, some people find that kind of attitude horrific. Libertarians will find that horrific. But there's an upside and a downside to everything's in God's universe, and Professor Richard Wolff and I think Marx was a genius. His analysis of how things were in that time was brilliant. Some of the most important things, in my mind, Marx said, property is theft. Now, wow. And when you have an argument, a public debate between right-wing and left-wing, what do the right-wing people say? Their favourite word is property, 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 property. And there's Marx saying property is theft. Now, look, excuse me, let me give you an example. I'll give you two examples. I'm wearing some strange clothing, so forget about me. But you have really expensive, nice designer clothes in the Western world, UK, for example. Have you earned your clothing? Have you earned your clothing, or have the clothes you're wearing been paid for by somebody else? Are you wearing cheap clothes because of people making cheap clothes in a sweatshop on the other way? The people in the sweatshop, do they own their clothing? Yes. They have paid for their rags 100 times over. Have you paid for your ostentatious outfit 100 times over? No. You are wearing clothes that you haven't earned. Well, am I oversimplifying? And are some people getting my message and some people not? Well, me and Richard Wolff are on the same page. Please, if you're right wing and you want to understand the left wing better, so that we can come together, listen to Richard Wolff's videos. He's doing a regular commentary every week, update. He believes that socialism is something that evolves and gets better and better closer to the centre. Right-wing politics doesn't evolve. They dig their heels in. Right-wing politics, in a nutshell, I don't like the Tories. I think they have a philosophy that I sum up as, I'm all right, Jack. If you're not all right, Jack, it's your own fault. I'm not in the gutter because I chose not to be in the gutter. So if you're in the gutter, you're choosing to be in the gutter. So why should we help you out with the welfare system? You're choosing to be a gutter. To give money to people who are choosing to be idiots doesn't make sense. And I sort of get that. I mean, look, is there a difference between genuine misfortune and misfortune which is self-inflicted? There is. Now, genuine misfortune, of course we should help people. But then there's a philosophy of a hand up, not a hand out, which I approve of, But you see, the Tories would rather than allow one person to exploit, if a few people exploit this, I would rather help the mass. I would like to help the genuine minority in a way that if a few people sort of cheat the system, fuck it. let them cheat the system. A few people cheat the system. If we look after those in genuine need, fine. And it's the prices a few people cheat the system. But the Tories, we don't want anyone cheating the system, so we're going to make the system as cheat-proof as possible, which means we don't help people. People in genuine need don't get the support they need. But we live in interesting times. Putin has actually started some kind of chain reaction where everyone's going to wake up, believe me. So Animal Farm, the pigs ruling, I think a perfect future. There will be, the Russians have terms for this. They have the intelligentsia, the plebiscites, the intelligentsia, the plebiscites, who are the unwashed masses, and God knows who came up with that term. The intelligentsia, the plebiscites, and the bourgeoisie. And I think Russians don't like the bourgeoisie, and they try to execute them. So you end up with the intelligentsia, the elite are running things, and the plebiscites are just ordinary people having an order. But I actually think that's a good model. Those people that get satisfaction from running the world and running the world well, let them. Those people that actually working out policy. Oh yes, the greatest minds throughout history have argued about God. In the modern world, they're arguing about politics and economics, and that argument's getting nowhere. So what they're arguing about now? LGBTQ. Oh, fucking hell! LGBTQ. Does everyone deserve love? Or are LGBTQ people mentally ill? Do they need to be treated as mentally ill patients? Or is it just is it normal and natural? It's just one of those things. And, if you happen to be gay or whatever, everyone deserves love. Pride. Look, I don't understand it. I'm not proud to be straight. And pride is a deadly sin. Pride, conceit, vanity. But this, 7 deadly sins, and the worst sin of all, okay, well, all right, everything's relative. There's this thing as sin. Another bloody argument. Ha! Ha ha! So anyway, Professor Wolf and I are on the same side politically. If you want to understand my point of view, listen to Richard Wolff. And like I said, Marx, one of his main things he said, one of the main things he said was property is theft. Oh, by the way, do you know you can buy a plot on the moon? You can buy a plot on Mars? Excuse me? Who owns the moon? How can you sell a plot on the moon unless you own the moon? It doesn't make sense. The Mars, you can buy a plot on Mars with mineral rights. If your plot has minerals, your future generations are going to be millionaires. How can you buy a piece of the moon when nobody belongs there? How can you buy a piece of Mars? Andrew said you can't. Spot on. Somebody said a joke about the definition of capitalism. Somebody puts a fence around a piece of land and says, this is mine, and everyone else is so stupid they believe him. And we have this rule, I think, in the UK. If you can actually put a fence around a piece of land, if you get away for 7 years, it's yours. Anyway, so Animal Farm, the pigs. Now, what's important? How do we? Should the pigs run the farm or some other animal? How do we choose? In a world where most people are having a never-ending ethical party, and a few people are ethical leaders, how do we choose the leaders? Are the pigs the right animals to run the world? Probably not. Pigs have got a bad reputation, haven't they? The Muslims and Jews won't eat pigs, and the UK police are called pigs, although they're not pigs. They're very noble people doing a fucking hard job, I got a lift in a police car once, and over the radio, one of their colleagues had just suffered a smashed pelvis. In the course of protecting us from the baddies, our British police risk death. Well, not as much in America, because we don't have bloody guns all over the place, but they risk things like having a smashed pelvis. Our boys in blue, I have respect for. Bloody, they are regulated. The UK police are regulated. They don't like the regulation because it's tough. It's fucking tough. But they see the upside of the regulation. It makes sure. In the olden days, police would do things like plant drugs on people. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen anymore. They are so strictly regulated. They don't like the regulation, but they see the need for it. And in America, with this gun battle, pro guns, anti guns, mass shootings, bloody hell. And only today there's another mass shooting in Canada this time. When are we going to start getting I think we've had a few mass shootings in the UK, but this mass shootings thing, it's going to all over the world eventually. So Animal Farm, how do we choose the elite? Well, I've got a few suggestions. Yes, the trade. Oh God, there's a political party called the Trade Union and Socialist Alliance, TUSC, and they don't get many votes, but they go on about we've had enough of puppet governments. The right wing are puppets to the so-called wealth creators, and the left wing are puppets to the sort of like it's not fair brigade. Well, it isn't fair, but sort of pursuit of aggressively pursuing fairness can be counterproductive. And governments are the Labour Party are puppets to are they puppets to the trade unions? I don't know. It's hard to. The Trade Union and Socialist Alliance, they are absolutely anti-puppet governments, and I've devised some electoral systems that get rid of this puppet, that make every vote count, and also end up with a cabinet that's 50% men and women. I have got some very good voting systems, and nobody's bloody interested. But if you are interested, write to me, skydazzle1971@gmail.com. Ha ha! Right, are we at the next segment yet? So, maybe a transition. So, a bit of repetition in different language. Nothing is set in stone. Now, I'll give an example. Scripture, Bible. If you think the Bible is the final words, the Bible, New Testament, Old. If you're a Jew and you think, well, the Jews have their own scripture. But if you're a Christian, if you believe that the New Testament and the Old Testament is the final word, then, well, it may have been highly appropriate for 2,000 years ago, and it may be largely appropriate if correctly interpreted today.